Tarkov's medication system has a ton of little nuances that make it both complex and interesting at the same time. From light and heavy bleeds to fractures and contusions, the only other game with any semblance of a robust medical system that I've played is probably DayZ. And just like DayZ, neither game really explains how their systems work. But one angle that is more specific to Tarkov is the stimulants that have been added to the game over time. They have become a core component of survival and assisting with movement and fighting both AI and other players. Their effects have a wide range of different pros and cons because there's, 21 of Stims. So instead of talking about all the different ones and what they do compared to one another, I just wanted to say that stimulants in Tarkov are really strong, and it's crazy what kind of combinations people have come up with to make some insane concoctions that basically turn you into a superhuman. So today I wanted to go over the stims in the game, the injector case, stims as a whole, and just where we might see future injectors go in the future. So if you enjoyed this video and any other ones, be sure to subscribe for more of them. Way back in the day, the only real injector technically was just morphine, a simple painkiller that lasted longer than most of the other painkillers at that time. Now, morphine is still prevalent, but with the added downside of reducing energy and hydration and all the other downsides. And while it doesn't have any of the wild effects that some of the newer stims have to offer, having a humble morphine on you is the fastest way to get a painkiller going if you're like me and you try to avoid pre-popping painkillers as much as possible, which we'll be going over in a couple minutes. But over time, BSG have added many more stims to the game, and probably the most universally loved of all of them is Propanol, a 4+ minute long lasting painkiller that heals you for 1 HP every second. Put simply, it's better than a morphine. The same application speed, but it heals you over time. It doesn't last as long, but the healing benefits add up if you can avoid damage for even just a short length of time. And when BSG at some point removed the PK effect from the Propanol, that was certainly a disturbance in the force, and lots of people were unhappy with that change, so it was reverted. But Propanol is still a vital part of anyone's kit if they have the coin to either buy them up on reset at the vendors or to just get all the components and craft them ad nauseum. The SJ6 is another hugely popular stimulant because it allows you to run across most maps in 1 or 2 full stamina bars, and when you combine with having a higher than average endurance skill, you can get COD marathon grade performance across most maps like streets and shoreline, a flat +30 to your max stamina and +2 to stamina recovery speed per second is simple but extremely effective, allowing you to get to places like the resort or any major choke points on other maps before most other players and set up an ambush there without feeling any real competition. There is a reason why this stimulant is so expensive on the flea market after a couple of months of a wipe. People want to go fast and they want to get where they need to. The advantage that positioning can have in the game is very immense, so it's no surprise that this stim that people seem to seek out the most is so prevalent late game wipe. Another late game staple out of all of the stims in the game is the muleston, which allows for an additional 50% of your max carry weight. So this is yet another injector that benefits from playing the game for a long period of time before using it. With a higher strength skill, you can carry even more weight on you than if you used it at level 1 versus when your strength is even at something like level 20. And actually, upon looking at the debuffs for this stim, it's different than what it was when I was originally looking at it before. It would increase the damage you took to all your body parts by an additional, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was around 10%, instead of what it does now, which decreases your health regen by -0.1% every second for a devastating 15 minutes. So once you use this for the next 15 minutes in raid, you will be actively losing HP and will have to keep topping up your health, which is an interesting change. I guess it makes more sense because if you need to use this, you are heavy and walking slow, so having your health hemorrhage as you're trying to get to an extract is more of a direct threat than potentially taking more damage. But still, this has become an important piece of Tarkov kit as well for those who want to go big or go home, so it makes sense to pack one of these with you just in case you come across some big boy loot. Which brings us to the inclusion of the injector case and how disgustingly broken it was, and arguably still is. The injector case is a cool concept for another style of container, allowing for a stash of different stimulants to either sit in your stash or, more likely, to take with you into raid. And when it was first added to the game, it could hold a total of, dramatic pause, 18 different stimulants. That shit was flat out broken. It was so gross. It was so overkill. And luckily BSG realized that sooner or later and reduced the amount this case could hold by half. to now only carrying 9 injectors, which, hot take, is still too many. The combinations people have come up with, like stacking Trimlodol, an SJ6, and a Melatonin for a literal infinite stamina, and having potentially 3 stacks of that combo on you at any point, is still broken. And now, since you can get one for completing Chemical Part 4 and handing it in to therapists, that's a solid deal. And they are still sellable on the flea market for only roughly 500,000 rubles. So you can always get one if you have decided to go with giving that quest to somebody else. The case is definitely busted, but only if you're actively using Stims all the time. And for the longest time, I would just sell my case, but actually decided to use it last wipe, and oh yeah, if you're an avid user of any Stims, even just morphines, this case is insane. And over time, we've gotten some interesting injectors, like the SJ9, which lowers your body temperature. A very niche kind of effect, but if you're going up against thermals, I suppose this would be nice to have. But how often is that actually going to happen, you know? But this does raise an interesting question. What other kinds of stimulants are going to be added to Tarkov? Now that we've kind of gotten away from realism with the injectors, I guess anything is on the table. One I could foresee being added is if they ever get around to adding radiation, like our health UI have had since literally day 1 of this game's existence, then a stim that reduced radiation buildup or slowly lowered your radiation poisoning over time would make logical sense, and we can aptly just call it, for the hell of it, SJ3, and maybe the color of it would look something like this. Apologies if the Photoshop work is rough, it's just a mock-up, but maybe something along those lines? That would be kinda cool. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, as you usually do with any Tarkov conversation going over the what-ifs. The altered painkiller effect is something people have been divided on since it was changed this wipe, going from having the sharpness of your screen get cranked way up, to now having become desaturated with the edges of your screen becoming blurry is something I wasn't expecting. I remember when they told us it was gonna change, I was kind of surprised honestly. It had been the same for so long I was unsure how it would go over. Seems like some people like it, others despise it, and I sit somewhere in the middle. I will at least say that not having the sharpness of the game go up is so much nicer for videos, because the bitrate doesn't go to absolute hell, which means videos retain more of their overall quality, which is good, especially if they're ripped straight from a stream, but the edges being blurry has gotten me killed on a few occasions, which is really unfortunate, but overall, I think it was for the better. Even if people have gripes with it, BSG can always go back and make minor adjustments to it, and then hopefully it'll be more in line with what people want, because the idea is very cool, but the implementation was a little bit rough, but I actually think that's the point. They don't always want us on PKs, so making it less bearable deters people somewhat from using them, but others just kind of tank the hit in their ability to see and work around. More power to them, I guess. Tarkov has a lot of different stimulants, injectors, whatever you want to call them. With so many skills and stats that can be modified, it makes sense that this mechanic would definitely become a favorite among players, and the potential benefits of using them outweigh the cons that they all have. It certainly is interesting to see which ones get used by which players, and what circumstances force them to get used. As their complexity has gotten more intense over the years, it never hurts to keep it simple and use the ones that we all know and love. But don't be afraid to experiment with different stim combinations to see what you can come up with. Just be careful with the Odabalo stims, because if there's an event going on, those might just kill you instantly. But yeah, stims are really strong in Tarkov and aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So might as well embrace their existence and get used to keeping some on you for dire situations. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on stims in the game, whether they're too strong, and what your favorite ones to carry with you are. And be sure to subscribe for more videos about mechanics in the game that are potentially game breaking if you know how to use them properly. I hope to see you in future ones.